Hello, everyone. I'm Carly Ann with Parsons Entrepreneur Academy. Thank you all for joining us today for our monthly office hour series. Here we invite successful and inspiring entrepreneurs and leaders to share their stories and the lessons they've learned along the way. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, Parsons Entrepreneur Academy is a platform that empowers creative entrepreneurs like yourself to build sustainable businesses around your art. Today, we are delighted to partner with Pluralistas and the Office of Alumni Engagement at the New School for tonight's event. I'm very excited to be in conversation with Carolina Acosta, the founder and CEO of Tragos Games. But before we get to that conversation, I would like to turn it over to Brittany Alfonso, who is the editorial director for Pluralistas, and she is here to share some information with you about their Jefa Nation 2022 pitch competition, which this webinar is a part of. So I'll turn it over to Brittany to tell you a bit more about the pitch competition and the amazing mission of Pluralistas.
Thank you so much, Carly Ann. Hi, everyone. I am Brittany Alfonso, based here on the West Coast in Long Beach, California. And I'm honored to be the editorial director for Pluralistas. In case you don't know us, Pluralistas is a community now about 2 years old that was built to inspire, inform, and affirm Latinas in order to help our community harness our power, exercise our leadership, not just in our own lives and families, but also in our community. Together, we're hoping that we can conquer the world. And definitely, with the help of our partners like Parsons Entrepreneur Academy, we're hoping to do that. Something we're so excited to share with you all is that we have right now going on our second Jefa Nation competition in partnership with Parsons. And we actually, over the weekend, in celebration of National Latina Day, extended the time that you can enter into the contest, making today actually the last day to enter. So if you or anyone you know is a Latina entrepreneur, we encourage you to go to poderistas.com/jefanation to learn more and for a chance to win. Just to give you a little bit of background of what will be included in the grand prize, you'll be getting a $5,000 grant along with some, priceless prizes from Parsons. That includes two sessions with a mentor and 3 online courses of your choice. So we look forward to seeing you all and getting those last minute entries in. It's actually closing for you East Coasters. You get a little extra time. Midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern. We look forward to hearing from you all and seeing your fabulous businesses. Good luck.
Thank you, Brittany. And I believe you also have we also have a clip of last year's competition winner that we'd like to play before we get started.
Hi, my name is Naomi Castillo, and I'm the founder of Oeste, a home goods and lifestyle brand based in Los Angeles, California, and the 2021 winner of the Jefa Nation competition.
You, Naomi Castillo, are the winner of the first ever Jefa Nation competition.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Since winning the Jefa Nation competition, Oeste has grown so much, and no doubt, I know that it's due to the wonderful support from this competition. So Oeste makes products for your home, such as hand-poured scented candles, goods for your bath, decorative goods for throughout your home, or as we like to say, cosas bonitas for your casita, all inspired by the beauty of our Latinx culture. For instance, the first candle I ever made, Aurora, is inspired by Guatemala, which is where my father is from. I use notes of cardamom, which is a crop that's widely grown there, notes of wet earth, which represent the rainforest, and smoke, which represents the magic and beauty of the volcanoes that are across the land. In addition to our line of candles, we also source products from throughout the Latin American diaspora by makers and craftsmen who produce wonderful objects that really bring the cultura to your own home. I'm really excited for all the things we have cooking for Oeste. The future is exciting and bright. The number one thing I'm most excited about actually is that we are working on opening the doors on our first brick and mortar retail space, which is also going to serve as a showroom and event space. The funds from the competition were really helpful in growing the business. I was able to invest in inventory and raw goods, as well as help for the pop-up holiday season. Additionally, the courses from Parsons Entrepreneur Academy were really great in that they were focused for people like me who are growing businesses and need very specific information. Not only that, but Parsons also introduced me to mentors that were able to help me one-on-one and give really great actionable advice. A great piece of advice I'd like to share with fellow jefas is something that my dad actually said to me a few years ago and has stuck with me ever since. He said, "Mija, la sopa se toma caliente." Or in other words, kiddo, you gotta strike while the iron is hot. Opportunities don't come every day, so if something is in your path, make sure that you take it, are as prepared as you can be, and move forward without any fear. Best of luck to all the jefas who are applying for this year's Jefa Nation competition. You got this, don't be scared, you can do it, and the world really needs to hear your voice. Good luck.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Brittany, for joining us and giving our audience more information about the Jefa Nation pitch competition. If you would like to enter, please look out in the comment section for links that you can go to find out more and to enter. All right. So I'm excited to start our conversation with Carolina Acosta. So Carolina is the founder and CEO of Tragos, the party game for Latinos by Latinos. She spearheads the Tragos product development and partnership initiatives while wearing many other hats alongside her all-female and Latinx remote team. Carolina started her career immediately after graduating from Parsons, the new school, with a BFA in Communication Design in 2015. She worked at Luminary, a design agency that helped startups with pitch decks, web design, and branding. In 2019, Carolina temporarily moved to South America for a change in pace and to reconnect with her Latin roots. It was there that she transitioned to freelance graphic design and met her business associate, John Lim. Bonding over their similarities within their ethnic backgrounds, Carolina and John worked together to launch Tragos, an Asian flush, the Asian party game equivalent to Tragos. Carolina launched Tragos mainly to build a product that spoke to her own interests and her identity as a US-born Latina. What started off as a fun game she wanted to play with her friends became a nationally recognized brand that many others like Carolina relate to and love. In 2001, Carolina was included in Forbes 30 Under 30 for the creation of Tragos and the social impact it was able to provide since its inception. Tragos impact initiatives have helped raise over $20,000 for community-driven organizations such as Black Lives Matter, Helping Hands of Puerto Rico, the Immigrant Workers Safety Net Fund, and more. Carolina continues to work on Tragos products while expanding new avenues of her business, such as hosting events, collaborations, and speaking opportunities. Thank you for joining us, Carolina.
Hi, Carly-Ann. Thank you so much for having me. That was an incredible intro. I think you covered half of my story, so thank you.
Well, thank you for being on the platform, and we're going to try to dig in a little bit more. So to get started, you have a graphic design background. What inspired you to take a creative path? Were you always creative as a child? What led you to a creative path?
So I've always had a background in, well, it started off with fine arts. I was kind of thinking back to that the other day and how growing up, I when people ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? I always said I always wanted to be an artist. And so that definition definitely transformed as I grew, and the industries grew around me. And by the time I got to Parsons, I was very much set on doing graphic design. I knew that digital design was the future. And once I graduated, it was kind of a no-brainer to go into what I studied, and it was still a passion of mine. And that's how I got into design agency, designing brands, websites, UI, UX. And so that's definitely it's still mainly what I do and what I love.
So in terms of entrepreneurship, did you always aspire to be an entrepreneur? How did that thought come about?
That is something that people ask me a lot, and I have to be honest, I never wanted to be an entrepreneur, mainly because I had so much experience with founders at the design agency that I worked at for so long. I met so many CEOs, people starting their businesses, friends and family funding up to like Series B's and C's, and I just saw how much work it took. It was definitely a totally different industry than toys and games. So that I do find very different. But in my head, I thought, oh God, entrepreneur, too much work. I'd rather just like design pretty things for a living. So I'm very grateful for the position I am in today, because until you experience being an entrepreneur, you don't realize just how fulfilling it is in so many ways. You don't understand until you actually take that journey. So it's an accidental entrepreneur, I call myself, but very very grateful for it.
All right, so now when you decided to start Tragos, you created something that was inspired by your Latina heritage. Tell us a bit more about how you went and rediscovered or reconnected with your roots, so to speak, and how that trip that you took led to the inception of the game.
Yeah, so I mean, going back to what I always grew up with, which was art and design, I definitely connected with that as part of my identity a lot more easily than I could have said, I'm Latina or I'm Hispanic, Colombian, Dominican, all of those things that I knew I was because it was my parents' background and their culture. I just never really felt comfortable saying it out loud or, really identifying it like for myself. It was only until I experienced that culture firsthand, as a US born citizen, it just always felt somewhat of a disconnect, even with having my parents kind of have me grow up in that culture. It wasn't the same as experiencing it for myself, calling it my own. And so that trip to Latin America was where I finally realized just how beautiful it was and how I could call it my own, because there were actually a lot of things about me that I didn't realize until placing myself in that environment, that I thought, oh, okay, I'm very much like my parents in this way and that way. And when I came back to from my travels, I lived in Latin America for some time, mainly in Colombia. When I came back to the US is when I realized just how deeply rooted I am in my personality and my culture. Something you don't even realize until you don't have it with you anymore. And so when John, my business associate, came up with this idea of having of playing a cultural game, I thought that was the missing piece so that I could feel a little bit more connected to the second home that I had discovered.
I'm curious, like, what were some of the highlights or the main things in terms of some of the connections that you made while you were on your trip?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, the trip was part of a, I call it like a remote work program. It's actually called Remote Year, and it was part of traveling with 25 other strangers, all mainly US based. And so I kind of threw myself into an adventure. I convinced my job to let me work remote because it wasn't really a thing in 2018. And when I got there, it was, I thought I would feel very out of place because I was like this make pretend Latina, trying to like brush up on my super rusty like Spanish. But when I got there, especially, working and living amongst my American friends, I realized I fit in way more than I thought. I connected with people, so many people, businesses, locals, and the language was a big part of it. Really communicating with everyone down there. But then it was a lot of traveling, a lot of going to local communities, doing volunteer work. We helped build a house with this organization called Techo. And I don't know if they're based in Colombia, but we did work out in the capital, and it was very beautiful. It was very much very eye-opening for me too, to see just how people live. The people that you can call your family in a way because you share this culture, but the living experiences are so different, and it's part of why Tragos finds itself in like the impact space as well. So I think it was a very beautiful experience. I'm not gonna lie, it's very touristy as well. I experienced all the beautiful places there are to see out there. We partied a lot. There's a lot of clubbing involved, so it was a little bit of everything.
All right, so tell us more about how the game works. How did you infuse your culture into it, and how do people play Tragos?
Yeah, so I actually have the game here. I have the original one. It's called Tragos. Well, we call it the original game, but it's very simple to play. You pick up a card on your turn. I'll actually open the deck. You pick up a card on your turn. There's 109 of these in the pack, and they all have different prompts for you to follow. So on your turn, you'll read the card out loud, and it tells you what to do. Sometimes it's just a prompt that says, if this applies to you, the whole group drinks. So a very common one is, if you still fear la chancla, which is the flip-flop our moms used to hit us with, take 3 sips. But there are other different cards that are like trivia cards where they ask a question, first person to answer, pick someone to drink, or vote cards or dare cards. So it keeps things interesting the whole night long. There are no winners or losers unless, maybe drinking too much, you lose. So, and what makes it very much part of the culture is that every card has a reference that relates back to the Latino culture. It's very agnostic, so it doesn't matter where your family or you may be from. It applies to mainly all Latinos or all U.S. Hispanics mainly. So anyone can play. It's to create, bonds with people of maybe different nationalities of you. As youth, but it's still what ties us together are the similarities that we all share with that culture.
Thank you for that. For all of you who are watching, if you want to see the game being played in action, we are dropping a link to a video that you can check out after the interview. So
it's totally different. It's totally different seeing it versus playing it, but you will get the idea.
All right, so let's talk about the process of creating a game. So you took this trip, you got inspired, and you talked to John about creating this game. How does one, where do you even start? What's the process like creating a game from scratch? And then what were some of the things that you had to put in place to get it out to market?
Right. So I would say it was when I look back at it, I'm sure that there were a lot of things I had to learn, and there absolutely was. I think the only thing that I came in comfortably was the product design, just because that was my background. As far as marketing, that was John's background. So we worked together to kind of put it out to market. But as far as physically creating a product, which is something that, when people see something on the shelf, they never think how was this made? Who did the printing and all that? That was all just a lot of research, Googling, It was the first time I had learned about Alibaba, which is a big overseas marketplace for manufacturing. So I always tell people about that place just because it is so organized as far as finding the types of printing options that you have out there. So we found a manufacturer online. We're actually in talks with a manufacturer in Latin America for the first time. It's been very difficult because they don't really have an Alibaba that I'm aware of in Latin America, but it is part of a mission that we've had for a while. So that's exciting. So first step is definitely finding a manufacturer, understanding your costs, how much it'll cost to manufacture, how much it'll cost to ship out to you. And, you know, we didn't really have a good idea aside from, hey, we want a game. Other people have done games. Let's do what they do. And so taking it from there, it wasn't until later on that we've kind of finessed our box. Hey, we want this kind of paper for our games because we want it to be less damaged when people drink on them, you know, or spill their drinks. Or now we know like shipping costs will double if we wait this long. And so it was a lot of learning that, and it's still a process to figure out, you know, your supply chain and logistics. But it honestly, when people ask how do you build a product, it's learn as much as you can, ask people who've done it in the past, because the internet has just made everything just so much easier to do than, and everyone has done something pretty much that you can start off from.
All right, so I'd love to talk more about your team. All right, so you partnered with John initially to come up with the game, but what does your team look like, and how did that evolve over time in terms of how you created your team? Because that's such an important part about keeping a business afloat.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We were just talking about this, but I think it's so different having a remote team versus an in-office team. It's such a different culture, and I think what it comes down to is, and especially for new entrepreneurs, I think I'm still learning this, is how to be like the right team leader and delegator remotely. I think it's already hard enough to be that inspiring, confident, and also disciplined person in an office where people see you every day, as opposed to kind of just being that face on your screen or just like a text or email. So I think that's been something that I've had to learn. And I think I'm very appreciative of my team because it's not the same that I started with. It's not the same as maybe even a year ago. Everyone that I've worked with has been technically a contractor, but they've been people that I've either been close with or connected through my network. And they've just been like all badass Latinas. Like they just coincidentally, I'm not against hiring men or, you know, just, but it ends up being that way. And I think I just connect with them on that level. Call me like a girl's girl, I don't know. But they've just always been very creative, forth-putting, proactive. I could not have taken Tragos where it is today without everyone that has pitched in from the very beginning. And even people that are still here today. I want to shout out the team that I have now, because they've been through it with me. I think it was a lot easier when we first started, and the last 2 years, we've really seen what it takes to really like strive and go over a lot of hurdles. So Aralise, she is actually my cousin. She handles my marketing and sales, and I've had her learn everything under the sun because I've had to learn it too. And she's like, "You didn't hire me for this." I'm like, "Well, you're doing it now." So we've kind of had to roll with the punches. Joanna, she's based in Peru actually, and I actually met her in Peru coincidentally, and we connected again through our network. And she handles our social media. She's the face that you'll see alongside mine on our channels. And then Marjorie, she is based in Honduras. She's been a friend since high school, and she's helped me with a lot of different things too. We've worn so many different hats. So I think that also has to be taken into account, especially for startups, whether you're in an office or remote. It's just a lot of hustle, and everyone on your team should feel that when you're first starting off. That was long, sorry.
No, that was great. Building a team and pulling people in who are old friends or relatives. That's how a lot of people manage to do it. In terms of the remote aspect, again, are there specific strategies or tools or systems that you put in place that has made it easier to manage? Of course, there'll still be challenges, but are there any tips that you have specifically around that for someone who's watching who might have just started a business that they're running remotely or are considering it?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest tips I would give would be having like organizational systems in place and over communicating a lot. Like, I mean, that's over communicating, but just knowing like how you're going to communicate with your team. Oh, hey, I just saw a comment pop up. That's my cousin, guys. That's very sweet. Sorry. So yeah, I'd say there is a little bit of like chasing whenever we have remote work, because my team is not 9 to 5. I think it's not the most productive. I think we all try to have similar work hours, but we don't we don't clock in and clock out, because I think that kind of defeats the purpose of this kind of freedom that we have. So a lot of times I just try to implement, if you're working today, which they might not be, if you're working today, you have to let the team know, you have to check in, and you have to say what it is that you're going to work on, so everybody's fully aware. So we call those stand-ups. It's a very standard remote tip or practice that people do. And then, I think whether it's good news or bad news, I want to hear about it. If you can't finish something and you're going to go past the deadline, I need to know. Just so we're not wondering or whatever. The team is there to kind of pull each other's weight and kind of help each other through certain projects, campaigns. So I always tell them, you got to over communicate with me. I think it's also not being scared to call people out. And also be respectful at the same time. So I think people, when they don't see each other in person, it's a lot easier to be nasty through email, through their communications, messaging. Like, we use Slack, but I'd also recommend WhatsApp, because that's actually really great and free, or Telecom. Is it Telecom?
Is it Telegram?
Telegram. Yeah, so I would say definitely a daily communication systems has to be in place. It can't just be email. So yeah, I make it very clear, if something doesn't go well, you have to kind of bring it up in a respectful way. And then you also have to be, very forward with compliments. You might think your body language normally might be like, oh, that was great. But if you don't over communicate that to your team, they might never know how appreciative you are of them. So, it's just finding a lot of balance and practicing that communication across all channels.
All right, so let's talk about marketing. So you started the company with $500, which is amazing. Tell us how you went about marketing the product. What were your most effective marketing channels or efforts?
Yeah, marketing has been hard. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's my least favorite part of my business, or of any business, I would say, just because it changes so much. And one great thing about, let's say, operations or logistics is you try something out and it should work because you've resolved almost like a math problem. Whereas marketing is 100% creative and reliant on so many different things going on. The economy, your audience changing, your customer feeling types of ways, through COVID, like you just have to be like very cognizant of everything going on. And then be able to be flexible and change your strategy if you have to. So as far as how we started with marketing and how we became so successful, I'll always owe it to our digital ads. We started off with Facebook, Instagram ads. And at the time, this was early 2019. I think it wasn't as saturated as it is today. And it had certain iOS changes. I mean, I've talked about it a few times with other people. They're probably like, Facebook's out to get me. But I just realized over time that you have to diversify that marketing strategy, not rely on one thing too long. And that's exactly what we did with our digital ads. We kind of threw money at them and they just kind of spit back out a good return. But as soon as that return or ROI goes down, you need to have other things balance it out. And so that's what I've learned, and we've implemented a lot more strategies ever since. We've taken it to a lot more organic content and collaborations on social media. So none paid through TikTok, Instagram are two top channels right now. We still continue to do email marketing, which is 100% our voice through our newsletter, reaching back to our website and our blog articles, which we have to pick up more. But they're like a great way to stay in touch with our customer. And it's been a lot more like putting my own face out there. Everyone's like, Carolina, you should be on TikToks. And so I'm like, okay, I'll do TikToks. Not what I wanted to do ever. When I first had this idea, I just wanted to play a game, guys. But here I am today, being the face of that company. And I think it really resonates. People hear your story. And that's also why Tragos was so successful in the first place, because people could see themselves in the game. And eventually I've learned they could see themselves in me too. So I think a lot of it has been just experimenting and like really trying to show that authentic self with me and my team. And yeah.
Well, I mean, you all were able to generate over $1 million in sales, like over a 2-year period, which is amazing. So kudos to you all for that. And I'm sure it's grown way more since then. But you started out as a self-funded company. Are you still self-funded? And like, what are your thoughts or visions on how you envision continuing to fund your company or your growth? Because that looks different for everyone depending on what their goals are. So what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so we are still self-funded. I don't know if that'll change. I think it's nice to have, of course, that autonomy that whatever you want to do with your business, you can. And I think lately I've let myself feel a little bit more proud of that fact because, when you're alone, you tend to like blame yourself for every single bad thing that has happened for your business. But then you also learn to appreciate everything that you've done right. So sometimes I get in my own head and I think, oh, well, I mean, if I've made it this far, maybe I can keep it all like for myself. But then I think about all the amazing people that I actually haven't met. And I think, in expanding my network, I'm very open to meeting either the right investor or the right partner that would want to, jump into this journey with me and expand further. So I think there's definitely an opportunity of investment or other type of funding. I think right now we're doing it all. We have lines of credits. We have we've gotten grants, and so it's just whatever keeps the lights on and can help scale the business.
And in terms of mentorship, all right, this is your first time starting a game company or a company of this type. Were there mentors that you leaned on in the beginning, or do you have like a tribe of mentors now who like help to like guide you along the way? What does that look like for you?
So it's funny because I think I've gone through this road, like, and it's kind of like playing a video game where you're like that little person walking through a neighborhood or a town, and you come to like talk to different people and they have their own little dialogues. So I feel like I've just been walking around like a video game, just meeting random people at different times. But no, like, I guess like there hasn't been like a strong mentor like from the very beginning. I would say John helped me out the most in figuring things out, like right before me and then teaching me. So there was a lot of things that I owe to him, like, hey, John, like, how do I use Shopify, or how do I print out a label? Like, you know, little things like that that definitely helped a lot in setting up. And then I'd say over time, I've stayed connected with different entrepreneurs, former bosses that have helped kind of like keep me understanding like a certain business perspective and thinking like, you know, if you do want to invest, like, you know, all these startup people that they've done it before, you can too, and not there yet, but like it's just like nuggets of information that I've kept along the way. And most recently, I joined the Women in Toys network. This is a big network of women in toys and games that I had never heard about until this year. And so that's definitely opened up opportunities that I had no idea existed. So I want to shout out to them, because if anyone else is looking to get into this industry and they're a woman, it would be a great resource.
Thank you for sharing that. So what would you say are, you know, some of the biggest challenges that you've had to face as an entrepreneur in general that people can learn from who are watching?
I was an entrepreneur. Okay. There's so many. I would say it kind of relates back to what we were just saying. I think if I could do it again, I would definitely put myself out there more and meet as many people as I can early on, because it's, at the end of the day, business is relationships. You're talking to other humans, and it's not like a, oh, it's who you know mentality. It's who do you know that you can help, that can help you, and kind of be part of an ecosystem that grows together. You cannot do it alone. It's finding the right team. It's finding the right mentors, the right networks. All those connections are so important. And I think naturally, as a naturally shy person, I never thought to go out there even more. But I think it's through these networks, through the Parsons Network, Forbes Network, now Women in Toys, even Poderistas, we've met people through this network. It's just so important. So I think that's a big lesson, big advice that I would give. And then the other one would be, I had this written down. I have to look it up because it was important. Okay, yeah, sorry. It's delegating and prioritizing. And I say this because I think all entrepreneurs feel this way, or definitely female entrepreneurs. So I would say to all the jefas out there that we all overthink, and we all want to do it all because most of us are perfectionists. I think that's like one of the pros and cons of being a female entrepreneur, is that we pay a lot of attention to detail. Sometimes our male counterparts might oversimplify, and sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. But for your mental health, learning to prioritize early on, plan out what are your top 3 things that you want to do every quarter, every week, every day is so important, because we tend to fill up our buckets with 20 things that are not all important. So that's very vital to maintaining a healthy workflow, team, work-life balance, all of that. And delegating, because we want to do it all. We think we can do it the best because we are us. And I've learned that it's not, you're never going to be able to do everything perfect all the time. So make sure that you trust other people to help you, even if it's not going to be perfect or as beautiful as you want it. You can always take it the last 10% there. So we've heard this all before, and so I just really want to emphasize it because it has helped me with my mental processing every single day.
So that's a great connection to mental health. I'll ask another question on top of that about practicing self-care as an entrepreneur. Like, you're constantly juggling multiple things. It's not an easy journey that you're in. So how do you take time and space for yourself? What do you do to wind down and to make sure that you're taking care of Carolina?
Yeah. So, I mean, in the past, I've answered this question just being like, I try to do all the healthy things that humans are supposed to do, like eat healthy, exercise a decent amount every week. But I've come to the realization that every week isn't going to be your perfect week. And I think I struggle with the most, the feeling I struggle with the most, and I've realized that other founder friends feel this as well, is guilt. So sometimes I'll take 3 hours to catch up on a show, or I'll binge the whole show, whatever. And then I just feel so guilty because I think, oh my God, like all that time wasted when I should have been doing this or that. And so I think what I try to do now, or I think the most helpful advice I could give right now in this journey, it's going to change all the time, is to not feel guilty and, remember that every day isn't going to be perfect. And so going back to the top 3 things you have to do every day, every week, every quarter, every month, always kind of remember that you're not going to do it all. And so, you've done so much so far that you owe it to yourself to do whatever it is that you want in your time, even if it's not the most productive, because we tend to get super in our heads about productivity. And so I've been trying to think that way. 2 things that help me continue that thought, because it's easier said than done, is listening to books. I listen to a lot of self-help books. I go for walks and I'll listen. Whenever I drive, I listen. And so it's a lot of reinforcing thoughts that I hear myself, that I hear for myself to kind of remind me, and anything that helps get out of my head. So talking to friends, listening to books, all those things help you, because your mind can sometimes be your biggest enemy in a day. And so anything to help you get out of there is very, very helpful.
Thank you. And what is the most gratifying part about being an entrepreneur? Or what has been the most gratifying part about building this business?
Yeah, I was going to actually answer it that way. I think, and this might apply to other entrepreneurs, it's kind of seeing what your product and what your brand does out in the world, because at the end of the day, it's not worth it if you're just doing it for yourself. So whenever I see that our games have affected a game night, a birthday, has been like the gift that somebody had wanted for so long, and just seeing all those memories created, all those moments created for something that you put out into the world, just makes it feel so worth it at the end of the day, worth all the work, because you're affecting a nation, I mean, not to make it sound so dramatic, but you're like, wow, I was part of that. So I think that's always going to be the thing I'm most proud of with the games that we've created. And I'm sure it'll be similar, but also different in whatever journey or whatever other company I might come out with.
And Speaking of impact, like your philanthropy is a huge part of your company's ethos. So tell us more about how you were able to incorporate that into your business.
Yeah. Going back to what we were saying about, experiencing that firsthand, living in a third world country essentially, and seeing how certain people struggle. And also in the US, seeing how families struggled. I didn't grow up, like, I think we were like considered maybe lower middle class, but a lot of friends were under the poverty line, and just the discrimination that you see over time. The Black and Latino community has so much catching up to do when it comes to wealth in the US, in Latin America, that you can't ignore that. It's a big part of who we are. And while I'd like to do a lot more with Tragos and our impact, we've done what we can. And I think when we were thriving, when we went kind of viral in the first half of our business, it was a great opportunity to work with so many organizations, working with disaster relief, housing, COVID relief. We really took advantage of that time and the opportunity that the business gave us to give back. And so I think now we're slowly getting back into it. I think we've been very timely about who and what we help out with and when. So it's what we can do at the time, never putting like the business at risk, of course, so that we can continue to do it longer term. And also seeing like, okay, well, what is most necessary right now, because everything is necessary, but who can we help in this exact moment? So which is why we've focused on organizations helping disaster relief at the time of Puerto Rico, of Honduras, like the earthquakes affected. So obviously COVID relief. So I think we're slowly transitioning right now to working longer term with certain organizations, so that all of our products can continue to impact with sales, so that we can do more with our community, with the events that we're doing, hosting more fundraisers. So that's something that I'm excited really to see launch, definitely for the end of this year and the next one.
That's amazing, and it's great that you thought of ways to have impact at such an early stage in your business as an entrepreneur. So that's awesome and super inspiring. So aside from ramping up on initiatives, where do you see, or how do you see the evolution of Tragos in, let's say, in the next 2-3 years?
Yes, definitely in the next 2-3 years, we will be in stores. I'm just putting it out there now. We want to be in a store near you, to just make it a lot easier to grab and go your game as soon as you're having friends over. If you forgot that birthday gift, like, we want to be a lot more accessible, and be able to scale in that way, so we can continue to keep building more games and more products for our community, for sure.
All right, so speaking of stores or sales, now as we get to the end of it, last question, where are the different outlets, where can people buy Tragos, and where can they find you and engage with the game and the company?
Yeah, so right now we are on our website, tragosgame.com. I actually just noticed the comments, so hi everyone. And yeah, you can see the link there. We're also on Amazon Prime for most of our products, and Walmart.com for now.
All right. Well, I'm gonna save some time for the audience to ask you some questions that they have. So thank you so much. We'll start pulling in some questions. Let's see what people want to know.
Awesome.
All right. So we have a first question. who are some other female entrepreneurs that you admire?
Ooh. Oh, that's putting me on the spot. Let's see. I've met so many of them lately, or like just, I guess getting into the world of entrepreneurship, you realize a lot of other things that people are doing. You're not really like focused on who's the creator of a business until you're in it. So, I mean, we were talking about boderistas earlier, and I just wanted to shout out America Ferrera because I grew up with her, and she's done so many amazing things since then, going from, that person that you could identify with on film and screen into just doing so much with business and her organizations that I admire her a lot. I would say also, I'm blanking on her last name, but you will all know who she is if you know the business. It's Marivet from the Mujerista. She created I think all Latina community and network online, and she's I love everything she does because she's very like authentic about who she is and very open, and she kind of inspires me to put myself out there and meet all these people. I feel like she's friends with everyone, so that's a big goal. And there's so many. We just come back from the Spoiled Latina Summit in Houston, where we met like hundreds of Latina entrepreneurs that I was like, the list goes on. I feel like I need to like write a whole blog article about it because I'm forgetting everyone's name. But yeah, the thing is I'm forgetting everyone's last names. I'm so bad at this. But I do also want to shout out my friends at Soap Pen. They're a soap company for children that lets them draw on their hands for soap. Draw on their hands to like play with the soap, but then it also like allows them to wash their hands. So it promotes like hygiene for children. So they're also Parsons alumni, and they've actually made my, they're two female founders, and they've made my entrepreneurial journey this year a lot less lonely. And so I definitely want to shout them out because they're doing everything I'm doing. They've been in the game longer, and so it really helps to see somebody that I can work with alongside any day that I want. And we're here in New York, so yeah, I would say I admire them for everything they've given me so far this year.
So speaking of community, it seems like you've discovered like quite a bit. Like, do you have are there, for people who it might be helpful for them to find some of these communities, are there a couple that you can like share where you're able to find community with other Latina women entrepreneurs or other women entrepreneurs or other entrepreneurs that have been helpful to you?
Absolutely. I mean, so one, I would say, like, just to generalize it, because there are a lot of Latino groups. I will mention them, in case anyone is interested. But one group that I'm a part of right now is the CEO School. And so that was started by Sudani. I'm saying her name wrong. I'm really bad with names, I just realized. But she's the founder of Stacks. And I think she's a unicorn right now. She just raised a crazy round for her business, and that's just her like full-time job. And she has a community where all CEOs, but it's like mainly targeted to women, can go in there. They're part of a Slack channel. She helps with webinars. You can be part of fireside chats. You meet other entrepreneurs in the space of all genders. There's courses that you can take, and it's all part of one membership. It's a monthly membership that you pay, but I think it's just been very helpful to tap into it and realize. that it's there. I would say there's also a lot of Facebook groups. People have told me that will literally be of anything that you're looking for. So I think that's something to really explore, because I'm sure everyone here has a different industry. I've mentioned women in toys. I would definitely take a look at them if you fall under that category. There's a lot of newsletters and communities out there. So like Mujerista is one of them. We All Grow Latina is another one that I'm a part of. And then I'd say like alumni groups as well. I think, I don't know how many people here are Parsons, but I think Parsons is a great resource to tap into. So definitely, there's just so much out there. Those are the ones that I'm a part of, but definitely if, it's worth exploring, even researching just to see what you can find.
All right. Thank you so much, Carolina. Oh, we have one more. How can people get in contact with you?
You can reach our business. Well, on our website, we have a contact area. We have a contact for anything you're looking for. We do wholesale, we do collaborations, events. We have, any type of business that you'd want to do. So I think our website is a great, it's a great resource for contacting us. Or, if you just want to shout us out or say hello, you can DM us on Instagram or even TikTok. We'll answer. So I would say that's the best bet. And if you really want to talk to me, I'm an open book. If there's anything you want to talk about for anything that you want to do with your business, you could just reach me at Carolina at Tragosgame, the website.com.
Take her up on that offer. When did you know that Tragos was a business and not just a game?
That's a great question, because it really does. There really is a transition period where you're like, oh crap, now I got to get commercial insurance. I got to get a whole team. I have to, send out 1099s and it becomes really real fairly quickly. So I would say Tragos, by the end of its first year, it pretty much had me doing everything I needed to do for a business, because it was only a couple of months after we launched that we kind of went viral for that first time. And we had thousands of orders that immediately needed a customer service department. We needed fulfillment. We needed just, a lot more to kind of keep that scale that we suddenly just jumped up to. So I had no choice but to turn it into a business fairly quickly. And I think the second year, which was COVID, was when we realized that we had to learn a lot of things as far as supply chain. And every year it has brought a different challenge, a different perspective on what it means to own a business. And so it's definitely graduated from just a game, just a product, especially when you also have your second product. I think that's also when you start to realize oh, I need a whole roadmap because now we got to keep it going. So all those things, but yeah, definitely first year.
If she was starting today, which ad platform? Okay, if you were starting today, which ad platform would you focus on first instead of Instagram?
Ad platform. All my research points to TikTok. It's it's still untapped from what we've done with it so far, and I think we can do more. And I think it's just for the nature of our products, it performs really well as far as the content that it creates. I think I could just do better at it, but we're getting there. And I think TikTok ads people haven't really played around with them too much. They're changing a lot as well. And so I would definitely placed my bet on that. I've tried a lot of different ad platforms, even ones that connect with your traditional ones like Facebook, it's Instagram. And so far, it's a lot of hit or miss and requiring a lot of budget. So I'm very weary of ad platforms right now. But I can't say that they don't put your brand out there. So it's something that we have to kind of live with, but just be very strategic and balanced with. So short answer, yes, TikTok.
Do you mentor up and coming women entrepreneurs?
I'd love to. Yeah. I think right now I'm in a position where I'm seeing a little bit more of that, with people reaching out. They have questions. I've had some females like come up to me, email me directly, and just be like, "Hey, I'm thinking of a game. Like, can we talk about it?" Absolutely. Anything you want. If you want to talk more than once, I'm open to it. I think it's just, if I see that you're passionate about something and I can help with that, then I absolutely cannot say no. I'll always make time for that. So if you're offering, or if the offer is out there. These are fun.
What advice would you offer future entrepreneurs when it comes to following their dreams?
Okay. Yeah. So when it comes to kind of like just jumping into that journey, probably is what you mean. I think I could have a whole story time right now, but just to keep it short, when I first started Tragos, my parents were very skeptical about it because I was working as a full-time designer, and they were so scared that I would just kind of throw away everything I learned in school and take on, debt, or like, this endeavor, like this company that may not go anywhere. And it wasn't like they were supportive, but they were just very hesitant because they didn't want to see me fail. But I think that I never felt like I super risked it, because honestly, I'm conservative in a lot of things that I do. Even with the $500, I was freaking out because I could have easily taken out a $20,000 loan, just to test out my idea. And then it couldn't have gone anywhere. So I think I was very mindful of like, okay, what's it going to take to follow this chance, this opportunity, and really understanding like, why am I doing it, is very important. I think, like I said, I had never dreamed of becoming an entrepreneur. I never dreamed of creating a card game. It was just something I wanted to do, and it was an opportunity that presented itself that I thought, it's either this or keep doing whatever it is that I'm doing, which I already know where that'll lead to. So you've got to really think about it, weigh your pros and cons. But if it really is something that you're aspiring to, you got one life, how bad could it really be? What's your worst case scenario? I always think like, okay, worst case, I end up on the streets. Will you really end up on the streets? Probably not. So thinking about it that way, I think scary opportunities like that end up not really being that scary.
So, well, on top of that, you mentioned you were working full time, then you started, I guess at some point you transitioned. When did you know, at what point did you know it was time to step away and put more emphasis into what you were building? Since you were being, very strategic and not just 100% just jumping in, like you were being strategic about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was definitely seeing sales come in. You think, okay, I don't need this job. So that really helped, figuring out your projections. Could my business pay me? At the time, yes, absolutely. And, there comes a point in every business where you need to think about how it's going to scale next. And I could have maybe hired somebody to scale it, but at the time, I still think I could do it all. So at the time, I thought, well, if I don't need this business, like freelancing, I was just freelancing at the time. I thought, if I ever need this again, it'll be there because I could always take on clients. So I think that was also what helped me, just being like a contractor myself and understanding the nature of what I was getting into. It is scary quitting a full-time job, especially with health insurance and all these other benefits. So I think that is a big thing that you got to consider. But it was my business was scaling super fast at the time. I think, we're right now we're at like a much more natural flow than we were during 2020, which was a crazy year for us. Now I can actually see how the business is doing without all the craziness. But I'm going all over the place. I already forgot the question. When was the right time to transition out of my job? Right.
Yeah. You answered it.
Okay.
That made it easy to determine when you can focus more on that. So you answered it. I believe we have one more question. There's so many of these out there. Is there an online project management system that you have used and like to that you've used to manage projects in your team?
Yeah, so we use Airtable. I think a lot of people have been using it now. I'm kind of proud of them because when I first started, they weren't as big as they are now. So I would recommend them. They have bases. They have, that's where we handle almost everything. We handle our task management. We have a product roadmap in there. We have all of our wholesale contacts and customers. We have our PR contacts. We have, we just transitioned out of this, but we are even doing our social media calendars in there. So I've used it for almost everything up to now because it is just so flexible in what you can do. But I've also heard good things about Monday and Asana, even though both can be a little overcomplicated depending on what your business needs.
All right, I think that was our last question. But this was great. This was fun, and it was great learning more about your journey. Thank you so much for coming onto the platform and sharing your story with us and with the audience today.
Oh, well, thank you. This was really fun. I wish there were more questions. I'm like, wait, what else can I do? But no, absolutely. Just going back to my offer, if there are any questions that you guys have after this, just email me, DM us. Like we're happy to share all the lessons learned, mistakes made. So I encourage everyone to start their own business if they really have been thinking about it. I think it's just so exciting. Like I said, not something I've ever really thought about doing, but if you have that dream, then you should absolutely go for it. So I really appreciate the time and sharing my story too.
All right, take her up on that offer. That is a big offer from a busy entrepreneur, and you get to hear from someone who's in the throes. So thank you again, Carolina, and also want to say thank you to our partners, Podalistas and the Office of Alumni Engagement at the New School. If you all are interested, don't forget to check out the HEFA Nation 2022 pitch competition. The deadline is midnight Pacific time or 3 a.m. Eastern time. So you have a few hours left to enter if you're interested. So look out for the link in the chat. And you can also find links to the Tragos website and to their social media handles. So go check out the game, buy the game, play it with your family and friends. And Carolina, we can't wait to see what you continue to do and how Tragos continues to evolve. And good luck getting into all of your dream stores in the next year.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it as well.
All right, thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, guys.